Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about specifically Dungeons & Dragons and the Dungeon Master tactics that are present within the show Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So that if a Dungeon Master were to watch this show, these are tools that they can take out of that show specifically to use in their game. All right, now, so basically, oh yes, there is spoilers for the show Chilling Adventures of Sabrina within this content. All right, so I've been watching the show Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and as I watch this, excuse me, it's very clear that there is something unique happening within this show. But the show is incredibly challenging to watch, to understand what the show creators, the writers, the directors, are trying, and even the actors, are trying to portray. What are they saying with this piece of art? And it is incredibly challenging, all right? So with that, I want to talk a little bit about how we as Dungeon Masters choose to spend our time, right? So one of the things that I've been doing is, I'm a skilled veteran Dungeon Master, and I'm dedicating myself to be a better skilled veteran Dungeon Master every single year of my life. I want to have a hockey stick progression in my talent to be able to be a Dungeon Master, right? So one of the things that if and I'm hoping that the people who listen to my channel, that's where you're at, right? You're trying to be a better Dungeon Master, right? And that's, and also overall my channel, I'm trying to equip people who are in the deepest end of the Dungeons & Dragons pool and say, this is how you survive at that end, this is how you thrive at that end, right? And basically, just like dealing with the deep end of the pool, if you dive down to the bottom to grab a ring off the bottom, and you do it wrong, there you could die, right? Here, you can ruin, like, if you execute what I'm talking about wrongly, you're certainly not going to die, right? But you can absolutely tank a game where your friends are sitting at the table, and that game has been going well, right? And everybody's enjoying your Dungeons & Dragons game. What I'm talking about today, specifically with Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, could absolutely wreck a game and absolutely could wreck friendships, right? And again, this is because we're dealing with material at the deep end of the Dungeon Master pool, right? It's all I'm talking about, usually, right? Okay, so let's proceed. So that's one thing I'm warning, is what I'm talking about today, this is not for the faint of heart, and this is absolutely nowhere near what should be ever attempted by any kind of a new Dungeon Master. Everything I'm talking about all the Dungeon Master tactics that come out of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina are only for the most bold, capable, genius Dungeon Masters, right? Who are really dedicated to mastering the craft and going to the very edges of what is good Dungeon Mastering, right? And looking over that precipice. All right, so let's talk about it. All right, so one, if you're going to be a skilled veteran Dungeon Master dedicated to making your game better, one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to adjust your information diet and your entertainment diet, right? So when I went into Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and I'm doing this more and more, when I am choosing to watch a series, right? You don't need to do this so much with a movie. You watch a movie, it's you watch a movie, it's 90 to 120 minutes, it's done, right? You're not investing 10 hours of your life. I invested 10 hours, close to 10 hours of my life to watch Sabrina, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, right? And so so basically all Dungeon Masters, especially at the level I'm talking about, are smart people, and smart people understand that the currency of life is time, right? Money is a secondary currency. A lot, lesser humans can think that money is the most important currency in life. It's absolutely not. Time is the most important currency in life. And so with that, if you're going to be a good Dungeon Master, you have to adjust your information diet, adjust your entertainment diet, right? So your entertainment can no longer purely be for enjoyment. It has to be material that can bring something to your Dungeons & Dragons game, right? So one of the things I've done to make my entertainment diet match the goals I have for my Dungeon Mastering is I have completely gotten rid of all reality television shows, right? They are lesser content, absolutely lesser content. Basically, they're usually not scripted, or they're scripted in a kayfabe manner. There's not much there to make your game better. They are like junk food to an athlete, right? You're just not going to walk away. Generally, reality TV shows, they're just putting a camera up to life, right? And they're going to show you whatever's there, but they don't have a point. They don't have a deeper meaning. They're not going to show you, pathos and bathos. You're not going to find that there, right? So I've removed them, right? So when I came to Sabrina, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, I had to use my cutting tool and say, do I cut this out of my entertainment diet, or do I go forward, right? Well, the reason why I chose to include Chilling Adventures of Sabrina within my entertainment diet, with this, distinct goal of bringing something out that's going to make my dungeon mastering better, right, is because it is connected to Riverdale. So I'm a huge fan of comic books, so when I was, I started reading comics when I was 8 years old, and I read superhero comics, and I went into Archie comics, and then when Riverdale came on, I'm like, oh, I know Archie comics, I'm going to watch this, right? Riverdale is incredibly well-paced, right? And it tells its stories boldly. It's a fascinating show, and I really enjoy it. I've watched both seasons. So when Chilling Adventures of Sabrina came out, I realized, I was reading some content about it. One of my favorite reviewers reviewed it. And it was Grace Randolph, and she said, this is in the Riverdale world. So Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is part of the Riverdale world. Okay, I'm in, right? Because I already know that the Riverdale content is smart, it's engaging, it has something to teach us that can make our Dungeons & Dragons games better, because the artists making it are smart, and they have something unique to say, right? Their presentation is interesting, and their overall approach to storytelling is interesting. There's something there. It's not like a reality TV show or like another baking show, right? You're not gonna get anything for dungeon mastering out of the British baking show, right? All right, okay. So I went into Sabrina the Witch, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Witch, right? So I was incredibly confused about the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Witch. And as I watched it, I just couldn't make sense of it. I really didn't understand what was happening, okay? Until I remember another piece of information I learned about a long time ago that set what was being done in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina into context for me, so that I was able to look at it, turn it around, and choose the DM tactics that are available there, okay? All right, so let me explain. So the reason why I was confused by Sabrina the Witch, right? By Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, is this dissonance in the show. The show has this fundamental dissonance. It's saying two things at the same time, and those things are diametrically opposed, right? Now, when someone is saying two things at the same time, let's say somebody says to you the following. They say, eating flax seeds raw is incredibly bad for your health. Now, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to eat this whole bag of flax seeds right now, right? That's dissonance, right? They're saying one thing and they're saying another thing, and those two things are diametrically opposed. When I hear dissonance, I think nonsense. I think there's nothing here, right? This is nonsense. Now, as a skilled veteran dungeon master who's dedicating himself to mastering the art of dungeon mastering, right? Then, I don't want to spend my time on nonsense right now. I don't think that Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is nonsense. I wouldn't bring it to you if I thought it was. So be patient. We're getting there on what puts this into context. All right, okay. So what is the dissonance within the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? Well, the dissonance in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is how the show talks about witchcraft. It is incredibly confusing. I've never seen anything like it, okay? All right, so the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is, in my opinion, a show created by secular creators, right? Now, what do I mean by secular creators? So, secular creators have very, very general Hollywood values, right? They have here's a good example of a Hollywood value. In Hollywood, the idea of environmentalism, like approaching saying that our planet is being destroyed quickly. The idea that generally everybody in Hollywood, if you were to ask them and say, hey, do you think we're going to have massive problems humans will have massive problems living on Earth within the next 50 years, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who would be like, yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who would say no, right? My take on that, I think, environmental issues are very real, and I think they will be a very real problem 800 to 1200 years from now. Absolutely, right? No contest that environmentalism is a concern for 800 to 1200 years from now. I'm not convinced that we're going to have massive problems living as human beings on Earth within the next 50 years. I certainly understand that that we need to be aware of environmental concerns. The question is the degree, right? So that's a Hollywood value, right? And this group is, and once you understand that, once you set that poll into place, you can tell where a secular person is going to be on almost any question you ask, right? There's actually on 50 different major questions you ask. You could ask them, what's your opinion on this, 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 and this, right? And you're going to get a little bit of variation, but not a lot. You're going to know where they stand, right? So if you know where somebody stands on, are we going to have problems living on this planet within the next 50 years based on our climate, and based on their answer, you're going to know where they're going to line up. That's secular, right? That's a secular view. Right, and generally, Hollywood is, at the macro level, is filled with secular views, okay? All right. Now, the secular view of witchcraft is very clear, right? If you were to ask a secular person, what do you think of witchcraft? They're all going to tell you the same thing. They're going to say, oh, well, in the old days, people had this idea that witches were evil, but now today we know, witches are into love, light, and freedom, right? That's what witchcraft really is. And people who think that they're evil or that they did terrible, dark things, that's just a misunderstanding of witchcraft, right? That's a secular view of witchcraft. I doubt that anyone on this show would identify themselves as non-secular, right? And the reason why is there's almost no truly non-secular, right? There's almost no one in Hollywood who is non-secular, right? Their views are incredibly secular, and secular is human first, right? Humanity is the most important and the most powerful thing on this earth, right? That is a secular view, right? So non-seculars almost exclusively do not work in Hollywood. They're not really accepted in Hollywood, right? So okay, so you're dealing with this, right? And by the way, if somebody says, oh, I'm spiritual but not blank, right? That's a secular person, clearly. All right, so let's keep going forward. All right, so that's a secular view of witchcraft, okay? Chilling Adventures of Sabrina has the most non-secular views of witchcraft I have ever encountered, okay? I was amazed what this show presented for witches. I couldn't believe it. It's incredibly non-secular, right? For instance, the way that it is presented in the show, the showmaker's view that they present of witches, of witchcraft in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina matches almost exactly what witches were dealing with when there were the witch hunts in Salem, Massachusetts. Those are incredibly non-secular views of witchcraft, right? So in the show, they present witches as people who do the following: they cannibalize, they do cannibalism, they do murder, they do revenge. They use their witchcraft to harm people who have opposed them or even annoyed them, right? And infidelity and commit infidelity regularly, right? So these are and then you would say, oh, well, they're saying that these things are okay if they're done in a really very justified way. No, not at all. This show is, for instance, one of the things is, oh, and here's the last one, which actually produces all the other ones. In this show, they present witches as worshiping Satan, and that witchcraft is powered by Satan, and that witchcraft is satanic, right? That is an incredibly non-secular view of witchcraft. Incredibly non-secular, right? And I was like, wait, what? You know, like, and that's what I couldn't understand is, I'm like, this is a secular show. It's being made by secular people. But everything that is being said about witchcraft in this show is non-secular, right? And so I was like, this is dissonance, right? And also, we are presented with witchcraft in this show, and particularly with Sabrina the Witch, right? That she uses she uses spells. Her spells are, and the show is super clear. Her witchcraft is being powered by Satan, right? And you're like, wait, what? You know, like, I thought that Sabrina the Witch was our protagonist, and by every objective measure, she's being presented as a protagonist, right? But she's also clearly aligned with witchcraft, which the show is presenting and saying witches worship Satan, they cannibalize, they murder, they seek revenge, and they commit infidelity, right? And I'm like, whoa, wait, what? You know, like, our protagonist is aligned to witchcraft. Shouldn't witchcraft then be love, light, and freedom, like the secular view of witchcraft? And the show is like, no, that's not what we're presenting here. And I'm like, I don't understand this. I'm incredibly confused, right? So I pondered it, and I actually sat down for a minute. I was like, what is being said here, right? And I thought about it, and I realized what is being done with the chilling adventures of Sabrina, okay? I'm a huge fan of Japanese culture. I study Japanese culture. I study samurai. I study anime. I study their music, their politics, all of it, right? It's really fascinating to me, right? And so within my studies of Japanese history, I was studying specifically Japan's history with punk music, right? Well, an outshoot and Japan has a strong history of punk music. They follow American punk, and really there's kind of a recursive feedback loop between what is done in the U.S. and what's done in Japan. So part of the offshoot of Japanese punk music, which is much based in American punk, right? There came out some Japanese noise bands, right? Now, one of the most infamous Japanese noise band is Hana Tarash. Hana Tarash's frontman is Yamantaka Ai. Okay. Now, this noise band is a group that makes music that pushes the limit of what music is. Like, they would come on stage, and like one of the things that Yamantaka Ai did was he just put a circular saw on his back and kind of just gyrated around the stage with the circular saw. And like, this is a song, right? Hana Tarash, their most famous gig was where they got everybody together in the bar where they were going to perform, and then they drove a bulldozer through the back wall. And that was the show. That was the song, right? That was what people had come to see. That was their type of music, right? Now, Hana Tarash, led by frontman Yamantaka Ai, they use dissonance. Dissonance, right? There is two frequencies that are counter-pushing against each other, right? They're saying, is this music? Is this not music? Here's two sounds that clash and don't make sense, right? And that is what is happening in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It is storytelling at the farthest edge of storytelling, saying what we are presenting makes no sense. It is nonsense unless you understand that we are geniuses and we are going forward carefully and we know what we're doing, right? And then you have a situation just like Hana Tarash, where there are extremely few fans of Japanese noise bands or even American punk that would not have given their left arm to be, no pun intended, to be at the Hana Tarash bulldozer gig, right? Hana Tarash drove a bulldozer through the back wall, right? And that was the song, right? That is epic. That is Tundra Wolf on the Hill style, right? Like, that is just epic. And that's what Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is doing. It is using dissonance, right? So that is the DM tactic, the takeaway that a skilled veteran dungeon master can take away from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. That dissonance is a tool that can be used. Big warning, right? In order to use this, you must be a skilled veteran dungeon master who has strong goodwill already built with their group, right? In that, in order to use dissonance, the way Hanatarash used dissonance, the way Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is using dissonance, right? You have to proceed, you have to be incredibly good at what you're doing. You have to be a genius, right? Like Yamantaka I is a genius. The creators of Riverdale are geniuses. The creators of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina are geniuses. And so all these traditional problems that come with telling a story with dissonance, right? They're able to control that, right? They're able to control all those problems and manage them on the fly, right? So that's, you know, it's really, I think dissonance is actually a tool that some dungeon masters can use. You have to be incredibly skilled and incredibly confident, and you should proceed in using dissonance to tell stories in Dungeons & Dragons extremely carefully. That's my thought. If you watched Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, did you see the dissonance that I saw? Or did you see something else? I'm really curious of that. What's your opinion of using dissonance with in order to tell stories within Dungeons & Dragons? What type of player base would you need to properly approach that and be confident that that was going to be received in a way that is positive by your players? Please let me know, and please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you very much.